Jacoby Walters is a guy who is arguably one of the better college prospects in this year's draft coming out of Baylor, which is a program that does a good job of getting their guys defensively ready for the NBA. And he's a good player. He's a guy who has a good, well-rounded skill set. He's 6'5". He's 19 years old. And this season, he's a guy who's averaging 14.5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists a night. And he's shooting 40% from the field, 33% from 3. He's grabbing, like I said, 4.5 rebounds, 2 assists, and getting a steal a night. He's a guy that he's a freshman, and physically, you know who he reminds me of? Al Burks. His body is very similar physically to Al Burks, in my opinion. And I think he's a bit shiftier, but I do like, what he's been able to do and how he's been able to impact the game. And I think he's a guy who has, the ability to be a scoring guard in the NBA. His footwork's really polished for how old he is, and he's a sharp defensive guy who understands roles and assignments. He's not going to be a guy who's going to use his athleticism to get this crazy separation, nor is he like an elite ball handler who's going to change speeds and create misdirection. But he seems like he has the ability to be a potent scorer, similar to like Al Burks. And for me, I think he's a guy who teams are looking for those sharpshooters. And at this point, like I said, he's only shooting 33% from 3, but he's hitting them at good clips. And Walter, at the very least, can be a high-level role player. He can score, he can make difficult shots, and he can defend. And his shot making and his ability to move without the ball is something people like. Obviously, he'll need to speed up his release at the pro level, and he'll need to add to his frame at 195 pounds. But guess what? Al Burks was 193, now he's 215. So I think that way, and also his lateral quickness and his feet movement will need to be worked on to become a better perimeter defender. But he's also not the best passer, less than 2 assists a game. But like I said, I think he's a guy who's going to be able to be a swingman who can play the 2 or 3, be a quick bucket getter, who can score from all 3 levels and hit shots off the dribble. While, he's not going to be someone who'll need to set up his teammates. He'll hit threes at a decent rate, and I think play decent defense at a decent level. Now, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think of Jacoby Walters? I think he might be a guy that if he does participate in the scouting combine, which like everybody does, he's potentially could skyrocket into the top 5. I do believe he'll be a top 10 pick. But yeah, I think he's coming from a good program that, as of late, I think has done a good job of developing talent. And I think with how weak this class is, they're going to go for guys who can play defense. If you play defense, I think you have a better chance of getting drafted higher than other guys because of how volatile the class is this year.